Ray Brown's Talking Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com. By FeatherSnap, the smart bird feeder with a high-resolution camera and species identification software aimed to educate and spread joy to every level of avian enthusiast. Learn more at feathersnapcam.com.
And by Vortex Optics, with the VIP warranty, their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to our show number 1021. Just outside our studio window is the Talking Birds garden, where the feeders are full and birds are working hard to empty them. Assisting the emptying effort this morning, we have black-capped chickadee, red-bellied woodpecker, dark-eyed junco, blue jay, tufted titmouse, mourning dove, song sparrow, and one more species that we're saving for today's mystery bird contest. We have an audio postcard today right from our home state of Massachusetts with Carrie and Greg, and they're showing a group of new birders that birding is not only fun, but also funny.
Hi all, this is Greg Power and Carrie McClary. We're coming to you from Sally Milligan Park in Beverly, Massachusetts. We're listening to robins, house finch, and blue jays here. Quite a few white-throated sparrows are also about, and they have all stopped calling right now.
We'll try another one. Yeah, happy birding!
Hi everybody, this is Greg Power and Carrie McClary. We're coming to you from Sally Milligan Park in Beverly, Massachusetts, where we're leading a group of about 20 people from Beverly on an introductory bird walk here. This morning there's mostly blue jays and robins as usual this time of year, but some of the other winter residents such as white-throated sparrows are here also. Happy birding!
Having some fun there in Beverly, Massachusetts. Carrie and Greg and crew there. We'd like to invite all Talking Birds listeners who'd like to do it to make an audio postcard and send it to us. Grab a smartphone or some other digital recording device and just describe what you're seeing wherever you're looking at or listening to birds, including your backyard. Send it to Ray at talkingbirds.com. That's the file. Send it to Ray at talkingbirds.com. That's the address. Conservation good news. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will expand the boundary of the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge in Georgia by about 22,000 acres. It's an action aimed at, among other things, strengthening the integrity of the swamp, mitigating impacts of wildfires, and enabling longleaf pine restoration to benefit the red-cockaded woodpecker. And by the way, thanks to restoration efforts already underway, the red-cockaded woodpecker's status has been changed from endangered, meaning in danger of extinction, to a slightly lower concern level as a threatened species. And thanks to our friends Lisa and Doug Wheeler in Swisher, Iowa, for alerting us to that status change. Saluting another member of the royalty of the Talking Birds listener family, our Talking Birds ambassadors, helping us get the word out about our show. And thank you to Phil Kyle from Harwich, Massachusetts. Among Phil's birding accomplishments, serving as president of the Cape Cod Bird Club, past president, and as a birding columnist for the Cape Cod Times. And here's another listener, another ambassador with some thoughts about being an ambassador.
My name is Joy, and I'm in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. What I like about the Talking Birds show is that I can recommend the show with confidence to anyone. I feel the show seeks to be inclusive, so whether I'm considering someone with different birding knowledge or different abilities or different ethnic background, I feel that they would learn and be welcome listening to the show. You should be a Talking Birds ambassador because the more people listening to the show will hear more about conservation ideas around the world that they can then take action upon.
Thank you so much for that, Joy. We love that conservation thought. Such an important thing in our world today. Well, still to come today, we'll talk with Kelly Leviker from the U.S. Public Interest Research Group, U.S. PIRG, about why little plastic pellets are such a profound problem for our precious planet. Also today, Mike O'Connor will join us for a Let's Ask Mike segment, almost live from the archive, about how to do it when it comes to suet. And up next, we're going way up north to meet this week's featured feathered friend.
It's the dead of winter, but today's featured feathered friend is happy to spend the winter where it spends the summer, in the boreal or northern regions of North America. The Cornell Lab describes the bird as a tiny, big-headed songbird with a round belly and a short bill. We'll add that it's brownish-gray overall, with a brown cap, a black bib, a small white cheek patch, and whitish underparts with brownish-orange sides. It's the boreal chickadee. This bird's preferred territory consists of dense stands of conifers, especially balsam fir and black spruce. Its ability to survive in harsh winter conditions is believed to depend, at least in part, on insect larvae and some spruce seeds that it stashes away in summer and fall, stuffing those items between spruce needles and in bark creases, often using spider webs and saliva to hold the food in place, while hiding the morsels with bark chips. The boreal chickadee's winter adaptation also includes the fresh, heavier plumage added in fall, along with the fact that it enters a nightly state of torpor as it lowers its body temperature from about 108 degrees Fahrenheit to just 85 degrees. With its total population estimated at about 7,800,000 and not believed to be declining in numbers, the boreal chickadee is rated as being of least conservation concern. It's Posela hudsonicus. Today's Talkin' Birds featured feathered friend, the boreal chickadee.
Welcome again to our show number 1021. Well, microplastics are accumulating in just about every ecosystem on Earth. I'm reading a piece co-written by our guest this morning. These come from the depths of the ocean, in the Mariana Trench, to the snowy top of Mount Everest, to everywhere in between. All of these microplastics are having harmful impacts on wildlife. Microplastic is how plastic both begins and ends. The first recognizable plastic following conversion from oil or gas is something known as a plastic pellet. Under 5 millimeters in size, these are rarely seen by most people, but are mass-produced to be melted and molded into everyday plastic products, everything from single-use plastic straws to kids' party favors to car bumpers. It's estimated that 10 trillion plastic pellets enter our oceans every year. To tell us more about these plastic pellets, also known as nurdles, and what we can all do to fight back against that form of toxic plastic pollution, is the co-author of the piece from which I tried to read there and botched a little bit of an excerpt. U.S. PIRG, that's Public Interest Research Group, Beyond Plastics advocate Kelly Leviker. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate getting to be on a bird podcast as a birder.
Nice indeed. We're really great to have you here. It was an overly long introduction, but certainly some stuff to think about there. That 10 trillion number, especially, what a dramatic and frightening number that is when we think about the fact that these pellets or nurdles will remain in the environment for a very, very long time. We know how other bits of plastic pollution, like cigarette filters, for example, make the way into our oceans. But how does it happen with these plastic pellets, these nurdles?
So these plastic pellets, in order to be melted and molded into these plastic products, they have to be small and they have to be lightweight. That way they can be evenly melted and molded. But that's also how they can be lost so easily. They're also, just a few pellets have very little monetary worth. So it's not really an incentive to make sure they don't fall because they're not worth anything. It doesn't hurt the bottom line. So these pellets are lost at every stage in the plastic supply chain. So it can be at a plastic factory that produces them. They might get into the storm water. They fall to the floor inside the factory. But then once they're on the floor, they can easily be contaminated with dust and other particles. So they're just swept aside and then they can end up in the storm water. Then they can also be lost during transportation. So the trains. So often how they're transported is there's little valves on the train. And if you don't close the valves correctly, those valves can then leak. And so then it leaks plastic pellets. And then they're often taken to a facility that potentially bags the plastic pellets before they get taken to a plastics factory that makes something of the plastics. So when they bag them, they can get lost. So at all these different places, the pellets get lost and then they fall to the ground. And because they're so lightweight and small, the wind easily carries them or water carries them to the local river. Then the local river leads to a bigger river that then ends up taking it to the ocean. So at every place in the plastic supply chain, they've been known to be lost. And plastic production is expected to triple by 2060. So we got a pellet problem.
And we talk about how these get lost, but we've also seen a bunch of stories about them being intentionally dumped. Are we still having a problem with that?
Yeah, it is so, if you're not careful with them, it's just so easy to lose them. So it's more like less of like the company's like, I just don't want these things, as more of like, I don't care enough to make sure they're not lost. It's not to their bottom line. That's the bigger issue there.
There's a photo associated with your article, which is pretty dramatic, and it's a fish with its mouth wide open, and its mouth looks like hundreds of what look like fish eggs, but they're not fish eggs. They're plastic pellets this fish, we assume, will be swallowing. And of course, not only fish are being affected by this, but by so many other things, sea turtles, crustaceans, sea urchins even, and of course birds. And there's been a study I know about the northern fulmar. Tell us something about that, what that revealed.
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting because back in the 80s, the Dutch started monitoring fulmars, looking at them as biomonitors of plastic pollution. And the reason why is because fulmars have a bit of a different stomach structure. And rather than regurgitate the hard bits of prey or other things they can't eat, they end up keeping it in their stomachs and trying to grind it down until it becomes a size that they can pass. So they have been collecting dead bodies of fulmars off the coast of the Netherlands since the 80s and looking and seeing what's inside their stomachs. So then they cut them open and then they record it. And they've been recording it they divide the plastics into two. So they have industrial plastics, so then plastic pellets, and then consumer plastics. And the EU so they've been doing this since the 80s, but the EU in the early 2000s also came on board, and they established that they want to reduce the plastic in the Northern Sea, and they want to get it to 0.1 gram. If 10% of these birds should have less than 0.1 gram of plastic in their stomach for 5 consecutive years. So that's what they've established. So this study has been ongoing. And so the latest results of this study, some of them are actually not so bad. So since the 80s, if you look at long-term trends, the plastics have actually gone down in the fulmars that they've collected. But over the past 10 years, the progress has stagnated. So In the past 5 years, 94% of the fulmars collected had plastic in their stomachs. And 53 of those was above the goal that they're trying to reach. So of 0.1 gram of plastics.
We know there's some legislative activity here in the U.S. on the national and state level, and we want to get into that at some point. But just while we have not much time left this morning, tell us about the way civilians like us can do something about this with something called nurdle hunts.
Oh, yeah. So that's really fantastic. So you can go out as a citizen science project and go on a nurdle hunt, and you go in 10-minute stints on these nurdle hunts, and in those and you look for pellets, and you are then asked to record your data on this website called nurdlepatrol.org. And if you don't find any pellets, that's still data. We still want to know that there's no pellets found in that area. So we have a few pellet hunts that are going on soon. So if you happen to be in Charleston, South Carolina, we had a plastic pellet hunt yesterday, but we're also going to have another one on February 15th. This is together with Charleston Waterkeeper and Charleston Surfrider. That's at Pineapple Fountain. And then on March 15th, for World Water Day, we have another plastic pellet hunt coming up. And that's going to be in Miami. And that's with the Miami Waterkeeper, Environment Florida, and Debris Free Oceans. And then we're also organizing a National Nurdle Hunt Day. So if you're interested in potentially hosting a nurdle hunt in your area, I would love it if you can get into contact with me. And my email is kleviker, Leviker, @perg.org.
That's Kleviker, Kleviker, @perg.org, and PERG is PIRG. And Kelly, next time we talk, it'll be about World Water Day on March 22nd. Kelly is going to be back with us again in February for an update about that, because that is a very exciting opportunity as well. Kelly Leviker is the Beyond Plastics advocate for U.S. PERG, the U.S. Public Interest Research Group. Her email address, again, for anyone who'd like to learn more about doing a nurdle hunt and more information, kleviker @perg.org. Kelly, thank you so much for being with us today, and we'll see you next month.
See you next month. Thank you so much for having me.
Kelly Leviker here on Talking Birds, and up next, it's our Mystery Bird contest in just 1 minute. The flutter of a tail feather, the flash of a wing bar in mid-flight. You don't always have a lot of time to identify a bird in nature, let alone to appreciate its beauty. But with Vortex Optics, you'll have the power to bring every wild moment closer. When you choose Vortex, you're choosing to have a partner in the field as passionate about nature as you are. Whether you're spotting old friends on the backyard feeder or packing for a once-in-a-lifetime trip to add a few species to your life list, Vortex offers a full range of optics and optics accessories for every birder and every budget. And whether the birds are taking you to another state or another country, you're always covered by the Vortex VIP warranty, an unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. If you'd like to learn more, or if you need help choosing your next optic, give Vortex a call at 1-800-4VORTEX or visit vortexoptics.com. That's our mystery bird, and probably pretty familiar to lots of folks. Our mystery bird is a small, plump songbird with black and white, or sometimes black and tan, stripes on its head, yellow in front of its eyes, a large white patch below its bill, a gray chest, rust brown back and wings, thin white wing bars, and a rather long tail. Our bird, which breeds from Canada's Yukon and Northwest Territories and down into parts of the U.S. Northeast, and winters from pretty much the mid-Atlantic states, south and west through Texas, feeds on seeds in winter, leaf buds in the spring. It'll visit backyard feeders for black oil, sunflower seeds, and millet. It's our mystery bird, and our task now is to invite you to call in and tell us what you think that bird is, or just tell us definitively what it is, and win these beautiful prizes. From Bird Collective, that's your one-stop shop for vintage-inspired apparel and unique accessories, all featuring birds, a $25 gift certificate. And one of our favorite feeders, it's the Brome Squirrel Solution 150 feeder, genuinely squirrel-proof and chew-proof. Easy to clean and even features a vented seed tray to keep the seed fresh and dry. Beautiful prizes on our Mystery Bird Contest. Tell us what that bird is and win those prizes, or take a guess and maybe win anyway if nobody gets it quite correct. 781-837-4900 is the all-important phone number. That's 781-837-4900 on our Mystery Bird Contest. Meanwhile, we're going to check in with Mike O'Connor, almost live from the archive, in just 1 minute.
Ready to take your backyard bird watching to the next level? FeatherSnap makes Wi-Fi-enabled smart bird feeders that blend the best of technology and nature. Get a high-def glimpse of your feathered friends with a top-of-the-line camera so every visitor can be seen with clarity and detail. A unique dual feeder bin helps attract more species, and built-in solar panels keep your camera's battery going strong. FeatherSnap's mobile app creates a truly immersive experience, allowing you to collect and organize your favorite pics and videos and earn badges along the way. FeatherSnap is a convenient and fun way to capture powerful images of your local birds and help get your friends and family excited about bird watching. Best of all, FeatherSnap offers expert-trained AI identification of more than 275 North American species, thanks to their in-house ornithologist. Check them out today at feathersnapcam.com. feathersnapcam.com.
Mr. Mike O'Connor is with us from beautiful Cape Cod and the beautiful Birdwatchers General Store there. Good morning, Mike.
Beautiful Birdwatchers General Store.
I don't know if anybody's ever described it that way before.
No one ever has.
Yeah, and they probably never will. But no,
that's the first.
It's
Good
a
morning,
first. Yeah, it is beautiful, though. It is a beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And you know, I love Freya's audio postcard because I love the brown-headed nuthatches. I spent some time in the Carolinas, and it's a bird that just makes me burst out laughing every time I hear it. It's just like it does sound like a kid's toy, a little squeak toy. It's very entertaining.
But we're supposed to be talking about suet and the options and how to do it with suet.
Suet. Well, see, you know, in the wintertime, a lot of the birds lose their insects, and so we put out seeds for birds, and suet's another alternative. Of course, woodpeckers like suet. That's what everybody else gets. But also, suet's important. Sometimes wintering warblers, orange crown, or yellow rumper pine warblers in our area. But wrens, especially Carolina wrens around here, will go for suet. And bluebirds, we mentioned everybody, at least in our area, is like, how do I get bluebirds? Well, suet is what they go for at our houses, at our feeders. So if you put out suet, and there's bluebirds around, it won't make them magically appear. But if they find it, they'll go for suet. And suet comes... In the winter, you can use a grocery store suet like we all used to buy, that kind of raw suet in the meat section. You can put that out, and we used to put them in onion bags, and now there's these little cages. And that's fine, and the birds like that a lot, and it's the least expensive. The trouble is it'll spoil when it gets warm, so it's kind of a winter food. And when things get warmer, you can't use that. But they do make suet in those blocks, which are still fairly inexpensive. There's these little, like less than a pound, about 12-ounce little squares you put in the suet holders, and they put grains in those to keep them from melting. So most of those you can use year-round, and they're fairly inexpensive. And they try to market them with all kinds of, they put berries in them, and they put pieces of apple and orange and cherry and mealworms, and there's a million flavors. And we have those million flavors, but my customers find zero difference. So they say, give me a dozen suets, and I'll say, what kind would you want? They said, just assort them, because it doesn't seem to make any difference to the birds. So my advice is just to get what's on sale and whatever's out there. It's not that big a deal. The suet. The trouble is with when they put the grains in the suet, they attract our old pals, the squirrels. Squirrels aren't usually necessarily big fans of pure suet, but they like the grains that are in there. So that's the downside. So they do have squirrel-proof suet feeders, but those get a little expensive. But the real culprit with suet, whatever kind you use, raw, pure, anything, are raccoons. Raccoons don't care. They'll take it. And the indication that you have a raccoon situation is not only is the suet gone, but the suet feeder is gone.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
Everything's gone.
Wow.
So if it's, my advice for that, take them in at night when the raccoons are out working.
All right. And stop blaming the squirrels for everything.
That's right. They get the bad rap.
Next time, Mike, I'll tell you about my two friends, Randy and Sid. They started a suet company. They call it the Rancid Suet Company. But that didn't work out too well.
Yeah, they got to work on that name, right? They got to work on that.
All right. We'll talk to you
next week.
Mike O'Connor there at the famous Bird Watchers General Store, and we're back now at the Mystery Bird Contest, trying to identify this small, plump songbird with black and white or sometimes black and tan stripes on its head, yellow in front of its eyes, a large white patch below its bill, a gray chest, rust brown back and wings, thin white wing bars, and a rather long tail. And we're going to make our second North Carolina connection of the morning, this time with Josh in Charlotte, North Carolina. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning, Ray.
Good morning. Good morning, Josh. We're pretty chilly up here, although not so bad, in the 30s. How about down there?
We are preparing for a little bit more colder weather. It's in transition.
In transition, yes. By the way, I forgot to mention this. I wanted to offer a little sympathy for our guest this morning. Kelly is in Denver, Colorado. I totally forgot to mention that, where it is 3 below zero this morning. So we're thinking of you, Kelly. And we're thinking about our mystery bird here. And Josh, what do you say it might be or what it is?
I believe my backyard is filled with them right now. The white-throated sparrow.
All right. Backyard filled. Nice. We have one and we know of in our backyard, so we're making progress in the transition as well. Absolutely right. The white-throated sparrow, our mystery bird. And I believe, Josh, we have time for a bonus question if you would care to give it a try here.
Oh, let me give it a try.
All right. And I think, in sort of honor of our guest this morning, talking about plastic pollution, we have a plastic pollution question here. The nonprofit group 5 Gyres, which conducts research-based work to combat plastic pollution, recently did a survey manned by volunteers to identify the top item polluting our national parks. Not surprisingly, it turned out to be that for the third year in a row, single-use plastic was the most prevalent material polluting our parks. So our question is, multiple choice, what percentage of the polluting trash consisted of single-use plastic? Was it A, 23%, B, 56%, or C, 77%? What do you think, Josh?
Ray, I'm going to go with C.
C would be 77%. I guess you probably knew why we were picking these numbers to emphasize that big figure there. 77% of the trash there, single-use plastics in our national parks. And I know some of the parks are doing a lot to change all of this, and we need to do another update on an upcoming show. Josh, thank you so much. If you'll stay on the line, we'll switch you over to Jesse, and he'll arrange to send you those prizes.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Josh. In Charlotte, North Carolina, correctly identifying the white-throated sparrow as our mystery bird. Next week, we'll learn something new when we join our own Debbie Bleacher in the Talkin' Birds Science Corner. And thanks to our amazing Talkin' Birds team, including Debbie Bleacher and Freya McGregor, and our producing engineer, Jesse Wilkins. I'm Ray Brown. See you next week.
The bird show. I like that. I love it.
Ray Brown's Talkin' Birds.
Made possible by the generous support of the Birdwatchers General Store, Orleans, Cape Cod. Birdwatchersgeneralstore.com. By FeatherSnap, the smart bird feeder with a high-resolution camera and species identification software aimed to educate and spread joy to every level of avian enthusiast. Learn more at feathersnapcam.com.
And by Vortex Optics, with the VIP warranty, their unlimited lifetime promise to keep you and your optic covered. Learn more at vortexoptics.com.